Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today we're looking at the top 8 results from both Brisbane and the Gdansk Regional Championships. We just had these two tournaments this past weekend, so we had a weekend of double regionals, and we have some interesting results from both of these regionals, especially the Gdansk Regionals. We had a really interesting deck in top 8, and there's been some pretty interesting breakthroughs to look at here. Of course, this tournament is going to be, well, both these tournaments are going to be pretty important to the future of the format, especially heading into San Antonio, which is not that far away, and I will be at San Antonio, so I really want to take in some of the results here from the top 8. They don't have all the Day 2 deck lists posted, but I think maybe tomorrow I'll do a video where I look at all the Day 2 decks from both Brisbane and Gdańsk. Since they were a little bit smaller, I mean, in total, we have, like, what, 1,300 players from 1,400, 1,300 players from in total. So I'll definitely do a video maybe I'll look at all the Day 2 decks next. But we do have the top 8 posted, and I wanted to look at the top 8 here. Especially heading into San Antonio in just, well, a couple of weeks almost. But yeah, if y'all are new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers. I want to see if we can maybe hit 10K by the new year. So if you enjoy the content here on the second channel, make sure to subscribe, leave a like on the video, and all the good stuff if you want to enjoy. But let's get into it. So we'll start off with Brisbane, since it was the first one and the smallest of the regionals with only 388 players. It's just kind of how it is with the regionals here. In Australia. But we did have a really interesting top 8. We did see Gardevoir take down the tournament. So Gardevoir is coming off a pretty interesting finish now. But for the record, Robin Schultz added this feature here. Instead of having to click, so okay, let me just say this. So instead of having to constantly click open as image, which I used to do for all of my videos looking at these results on Limitless, there's now a feature where you can just click this and then boom, the deck list shows. So shout out to Robin for that. He literally even said he was inspired by that video where I looked at every Day 2 deck from LAIC. I think I clicked it over over 170 times or something like that. It was crazy. So this feature is just an amazing feature. Another great thing that Limitless just happens to be doing. So this is the Guardia list at 1. Brisbane, definitely a pretty solid list. The one thing to note is it does play triple reversal energy. So usually we'll see Gardevoir play 10 Psychic, 2 Reversal. This build has 3 reversals in it, so really playing a heavy count of reversal energy. Also, is still playing at the Luxurious Cape Screamtail engine and not playing Zacian, but since it's kind of leaning more to the Screamtail because you got the Cape and the Screamtail, it's also playing the double Avery. There's no research in the deck. It is 4 Iono, 2 Avery, 1 Boss, 1 Turo. It is an interesting list. Definitely, again, leaning into the Screamtail. But like I said, though Guardy may have gotten beaten at LAIC due to Iron Hands, Guardy, I would still say, is still one of the, if not the best deck in the format right now. And I'm not surprised to see it take down Brisbane, even if it is a different build on a different build. We don't have the deck list by the way, for Hayden Matthews, who played Charizard, but I think it was just Pidgeot Charizard. So yeah. Maybe they were playing some of their 60s here. Now, this build is very interesting. So we got a build here in second place playing Rotom V in Pidgeysard. So usually Pidgeysard will play Entei, Pidgeot V, or Lumineon V. This build actually plays Rotom V, which is also kind of genius. So Rotom V is basically just here for the ability where you can just draw 3 cards in your turn end. So the idea is, with this deck, is you bench Rotom, and then you just draw 3 cards with it. So you basically just build up a bigger hand for the following turn, and having a larger hand makes it easier to get the Rare Candy Charizard Pidgeot combo you're trying to achieve with this deck. Of course, you can still put Forest Seal Stone onto your Rotom to achieve that goal of getting there. And because you have a bigger hand going into your next turn, I mean, you get to see, what, 4 new cards thanks to your top deck and the 3 cards you draw with the Rotom. You're really able to build up a massive hand. So I really do like the idea of Rotom. The downside of Rotom, it obviously means you don't have a strong attacker like Entei V in the deck, which I'm still a big fan of the Entei in the Charizard deck. Also, you don't have the Pidgeot V. Rotom is stuck in play. This build does not play Turo, but it does play Collapse Stadium to get the Rotom off the board. Some other interesting cards. Just playing that one of Minior, which is a pretty good counter to Snorlax. And there was quite a few Snorlax in top 8 at Brisbane. So the Minior might have been a good tech. I mean, Minior does have that ability where it can move into the active spot when you put energy on it, and then you can do 20 damage for your opponent's entire retreat cost. So it's a great way to counter Snorlax. It's a pretty good Snorlax counter, which we'll talk a bit more about Snorlax when we get to the Snorlax decks, because Snorlax had a pretty good weekend, just saying. But yeah, pretty cool to see Pidgeysard do well. I've just been a big fan of Pidgeysard, and I'm happy to see it do well. And the Rotom is a really cool inclusion in the deck. We do have a Fusion Mew deck here that also got top 8. Fusion Mew is definitely an interesting archetype right now. It does rely heavily on those turn 1 donks. This build is kind of a hybrid, though. It looks like it's playing Grabber and Path. So it's definitely an interesting build. The Fusion Mew kind of combining two builds of the deck together, playing the Grabber, the Path, the Judge, and the Fusion Energy Meloetta combo. It's definitely interesting. It did do pretty good, and Mew definitely, I think, is in a pretty good spot right now. Nobody's playing Spiritomb, nobody's playing Drapion. Charizard can be beaten sometimes if you just Judge Path them into Oblivion. The worst matchup maybe you have to worry about is, like, I guess Charizard and Roy and Moon are still scary, but Charizard can be beaten, and Roy and Moon is not popular. So definitely cool to see Mew do well. I think Mew's definitely in a good spot right now. It's a deck that even I'm eyeing up for San Antonio. I ain't gonna lie. I've been the biggest Mew hater since the deck's been in the game, but I'm like, sometimes when a deck is good, sometimes you get attracted to it and you want to play it. Just saying. But yeah, Fusion Mew, definitely pretty strong. Again, it's more of a hybrid build of the Grabber and the Fusion Energy kind of combo. It's interesting. Yeah. Next up, we got another Guardy here. This time, it is a little bit more of a traditional build, playing the Screamtail Cresselia and the Zacian, also playing the two reversals, the Research. It'll be interesting to see which Gardevoir build could end up being better overall. Is it the triple reversal energy? Because if you're playing three reversals, obviously that's going to be very good for your Shiny and Arcana Gardevoir, because sometimes you need the reversal to make sure you hit those high numbers, but when you have the more basic Psychic, you just have more basic Psychic to work with. So it'll be interesting to see what build of Guardy is going to be more popular. But yeah, we do see the more traditional build here, the double Avery, the Iono, the Screamtail, and all that stuff. Now we got some Snorlax stalls. We do have Samantha Turner, so congrats to her for getting top 8. It's awesome to see that. But yeah, we do see the Snorlax control. One of many Snorlax controls we are going to look at in this video. Yeah, Snorlax had a really good weekend. I think that's mainly because nobody really respected it. Nobody really considered it, and also, yeah, it was just not, like, people just didn't think of the deck, I guess, when building. I mean, we did see the Charizard deck in top 8 with that Minior, but Snorlax just was not as popular as people would have wanted it to be, and so nobody really bothered to tech for it, or nobody really wanted to play a deck that beat it. Like, for example, Charizard has a pretty bad Snorlax matchup, and we saw Snorlax do pretty good at Brisbane here, getting top 8. This build does play the Crabominable V to try to mill your opponent. This is a really good way to play around any shenanigans your opponent tries to do. Yeah, it's just a Snorlax build. It's playing the Pidgeot, the Crabominable. It's playing Temple of Sinnoh, which can be a pretty good way to shut your opponent off from being able to attack you sometimes and make it harder for the opponent. But yeah, Snorlax doing pretty good is definitely a little scary because I know a lot of people do not like this deck. Now, there has been a lot of discussion on Twitter recently about should Snorlax stall be banned. I was going to do a video on it on the second channel discussing that, and I still might do that. Talking about Snorlax stall, should it be banned or not? Because there was a lot of discussion on Twitter yesterday about the deck. And how good it is for the format. I think the deck is fine for the format, for the record. I don't think it should be banned. I'll maybe do a video talking about why it shouldn't be banned some other time on the channel. But yeah, Snorlax did get top 8. Very strong deck. Definitely still good. I don't know how good it'll be after this weekend because it had good results. So people are now going to start actually teching for it and considering it. I think it's back-to-back, the same 60 here in top 8 of Brisbane for Snorlax. And then finally, in top 8, we have another Guardy deck, and this one, of course, was pretty sure the same 60 as one we just looked at with the double Avery and the reversals and the double reversal, the double Avery, the Screamtail. Yeah. So that was the Brisbane Regionals. Also, again, we don't have the full day 2 yet. It wasn't like the biggest day 2 ever. Obviously, the regional was pretty small, and we are missing one of the Charizard lists here, but that's fine. Next up, we got the Gdansk Regional Championships, which, once again, Snorlax won. Hilariously enough, we don't have the list for Snorlax available to us yet, so I am unable to look at it, but it is most likely going to be similar to what we just looked at. I don't know if it was playing the Crabominable or not, but it is safe to say the Snorlax, I mean, most Snorlax lists right now, the 60s are very similar, albeit they usually play a couple different cards in terms of, like, a mill card. Like, sometimes they'll play Spiritomb, sometimes they'll play the Crabominable. Sometimes they don't play Crabominable or like any other tech like Jirachi or anything. So lists are different, but the 60s are similar. Like most of the counts of the supporters and stuff are similar. But yeah, the Snorlax winning is kind of insane. It did beat Charizard in the finals, and it was a pretty anticlimactic finals. The finals was quite literally the Charizard player lost game 1. Game 2, the Snorlax stall player went first and just happened to open up with their one of Battle VIP. The caster said the Snorlax player played one Battle VIP in their deck, and they happened to rip it on their opening hand. And then Aaron just immediately conceded, which was pretty hilarious. But again, Charizard is a bad matchup, or Charizard has a bad Snorlax matchup, depending on if you can tech for it. And looking at Aaron's list here, Aaron didn't really tech for it. He has one copy of Escape Rope, but one rope is not going to be Snorlax because they'll just counter-catcher you again. So the matchup is very difficult. Aaron game 1, I think, opened up with the Radiant Charizard, which is obviously not good. And then game 2, again, he just immediately conceded because the Battle VIP, basically against Snorlax, you just want to hope they don't draw very well, and then you can try to donk them. But yeah, Charizard did have a pretty good weekend, too. It did have a very good weekend, much like Snorlax did. We did see Charizard get second place here. This one is the Pidgeysard build, playing the Pidgeot V in the deck. Not playing Entei, not playing Rotom, but opting for the Pidgeot instead. The Pidgeot is also good. What you can do is you can use the V-Star power, and then you can use the ability to put the Pidgeot V back in your deck, removing the 2-prize liability off of your board, which can be pretty good. And against Lost Zone decks, sometimes it's a good rope target, because you can rope into it, they spit it, and then you can just, like, shuffle back in the deck after you put on your bench again. So it is a really cool card to see in the deck. I'm a fan of the Pidgeot V still. I think it's decent. And Pidgeot and Entei are both pretty good. But yeah, Pidgeys are doing pretty good once again, and proving that it is still a very powerful deck right now. Definitely a top choice for me heading into San Antonio. And then, interestingly enough, this is where things get cool. We got an Ice Rider Palkia box deck in top 4. That's crazy. A Palkia V-Star deck doing this good is kind of insane. Now, we've been seeing Palkia being a little bit of an underdog deck for a while now. I mean, we saw Cyrus get 9th at Worlds with the deck. And the Palkia Chien-Pao deck's been kind of popular for a little bit, but the Palkia Ice Rider deck, no. This is a different way to play Palkia. So Ice Rider is a card we haven't really seen in the format since probably like last Worlds, to be honest. Yeah, I think last year's Worlds was probably the last time we ever saw an Ice Rider deck do good in a tourney like that. Ice Rider, of course, max Lance, discard 2 waters, do 250. It does hit really good numbers. I guess the idea behind the Ice Rider is it trades really well into the basic EXs, right? It can knock out, Chien-Paos, Miraidons, Raikus, Iron Hands in one hit. I mean, that's if they use Iron Hands in the matchup. But yeah, it's an interesting attacker to see. I mean, again, Ice Rider's been around for so long, and we haven't seen it in a long time. I would do a video on this on the main channel, but I've already done enough videos on Palkia V-Star. I just literally did 2 videos in a row with Palkia V-Star in them, so I don't know if I'll do a video on this deck, but I do like the idea of Ice Rider right now. It actually doesn't seem terrible, unironically enough. It's not like there's any big metal Pokemon right now, and again, being able to one-shot EXs seems pretty good, so maybe Ice Rider's not bad. I don't know if this deck has a chance of beating Gardevoir. Well, I guess it does play the Cologne Cross-Switcher combo, so I guess you have that, but it's an interesting deck. It's got Chien-Pao in the deck still, and Earthen Vessel. A lot of ways to find energy. It's got the Suicune in the deck, which is basically just an early game attacking Palkia as a basic. It's got the Palkia, got Mew EX in the deck. It's got Celebrations Mew. It's got Spiritomb, Detect for Mew, which is obviously really, really good. Yeah, it's an interesting 60. It is interesting, again, to see Ice Rider do this good. It is kind of crazy, not going to lie. But it is cool to see nonetheless. And you know what? I'm happy that a deck like this could still do well in this format. Ice Rider doesn't seem bad at all. I definitely don't hate it. Maybe 2/2 Ice Rider is better than the 1/1 line. But I guess 1/1 line can get over the edge too. But yeah, it is cool because, yeah, being able to, like, one-shot EXs pretty efficiently is kind of nice. It does a lot of damage. There's no choice belt in the deck, so there's no, like, damage modifier, so there's no way to, like, one-shot V-Star Pokemon, but V-Stars aren't really that popular. I mean, I guess Lugia is sort of popular, kind of. There's Arceus V-Star, which is kind of on the downswing right now, but yeah, cool deck. Definitely happy to see it do this well. Does it beat Snorlax, I guess? No, I don't think it does beat Snorlax. You don't really have a way. No, you have a Cologne. I don't know if that beats Snorlax, though, I guess. That's one thing, I guess, to note, is it would have a bad Snorlax matchup. Then we got Robin. Ironically enough, Robin did get top 4 with the Rotom Charizard deck once again, showing that Rotom V is definitely a really cool card to play within the Charizard deck. It is really cool to see Charizard in the deck, and it is kind of, I find it kind of, it's very poetic that we're reviewing Robin's deck here on this feature that he added. That's kind of cool, but yeah, no, definitely cool. The Rotom is definitely something I'm going to test with going forward with my Charizard Pidgey decks, because I definitely like the idea of Rotom. It definitely seems pretty cool. Being able to just get a big hand going into your pop-off or your candy turn seems like a good idea, so I definitely want to give Rotom a try. I'm definitely going to test it out over NTV, because it does seem pretty good. There's a lot of Rotom in top 8. I mean, Snorlax plays it, Charizard's playing it now. That's crazy. Rotom V stonks are up. Now, the Ice Rider deck was cool, but there was also the Tord Lost Zone pile deck. Now, I did a video on this deck on the main channel today, so if you haven't watched that yet, after this video, make sure you go watch it. But yeah, Tord did not play Guardy this weekend. He actually opted to play a Lost Zone deck. Tord has not played a Lost Zone deck in quite some time, but he did play this really cool Lost Zone Turbo Roaring Moon Kyogre Iron Hands Palkia V-Star deck. Now, it is crazy to say Palkia V-Star was in 2 of the top 8 decks at Gdansk Regionals, which is kind of insane to think about, considering Palkia is not really the best, most popular card right now, but the card is just strong and versatile. I've always thought that Palkia was good post Shady Dealings Engine because it's just a very strong and versatile card. You can play it with Greninja. There's a lot of water Pokemon you can combine it with. It's a very good low energy attacker. So I'm not surprised to see people finally realize Palkia V-Star is actually still good. It's actually really good right now in a format where we're just hitting back and forth with big basic EX Pokemon when Palkia can easily KO them. But yeah, it's an interesting list. I did do a video on the main channel today, like I said. Kyogre is really good right now against, like, Miraidon, Roaring Moon, if you happen to play against it. Really good against Mew. Roaring Moon is really strong against Charizard. Can be really good against Mew. Iron Hand's really good against Guardian Lost Zone. And the Palkia V-Star is a nice beat stick attacker, and it can also be a 5th Mirage Gate for Radiant Greninja or for Kyogre with its ability Star Portal. So, very cool 60. Will this deck carry over post Gdansk? Like, was it maybe just like a one-time thing, or will this deck continue to see results? I think it does have legs. I've played quite a bit of it. I've obviously did a video recording it, and I've also built it IRL and practiced with it a little bit. It's actually pretty powerful. It's not a bad deck. It can get the Kyogre pretty quickly if you're not getting Iono spammed. The attacking options are really good. Having the diverse engines of attackers does add a lot of value to the deck. Definitely a very strong deck for sure. Its consistency issues really just lie in whether or not you can set up multiple Comfeys, turn one with the VIP, whether you hit Chloruses consistently or not, but definitely a strong deck. I actually am a huge fan of it. I definitely would maybe like to see a Manaphy get added. Echoing Horn is something that this deck might want to play too, but I think Tor definitely made a pretty solid 60 for a pretty wacky deck that could have legs in our meta. Another Charizard deck here in top 8. This time it was the TM Evozard. So TM Evozard, while it's not as popular as the Pidgeotzard now, it is actually still holding off. This build is kind of cool. It's got Delphox V in the deck. That is something that we don't usually see in Charizard is Delphox V, but Delphox V did do good in this deck. I mean, it is something that can catch people off guard if, you know, you're playing against Charizard. A lot of the time, you're not benching Manaphy at the moment, so Delphox get a couple easy prizes, which can be pretty good, especially against, like, Gardevoir and stuff. You do have the Bibarels, which can help you more against Iono, which is a bit stronger than Pidgeot in some scenarios, but Bibarel isn't as strong as Pidgeot in other scenarios, so it's kind of like a trade-off. But yeah, TM Evils are definitely still decent. Not the worst deck ever, definitely still strong, and it did play the Delphox, which I'm sure is what got this player quite a bit of wins in this tournament. Because, again, nobody's really benching Manaphy against Charizard right now. So, definitely a cool 60. I haven't really tried as much Pidgeot or Bibarelzard as Pidgeysard, but maybe I've got to try this list out. It does look pretty good. We do have double Mew in top 8. We got the DTE Mew here. Just a straightforward Judge Path build of Mew. Nothing too crazy going on in the deck. No grabbers, no hammers, which we've been seeing. Just a straightforward, more traditional build of the Path Double Turbo Judge Mew deck. Definitely a pretty solid 60 for sure. And then we have another Mew deck in top 8, and it was a Grabber Double Turbo build. So we had 2 different DT Mew decks in top 8. This one was playing the Grabbers and the Judge Path. Grabber, again, you can, take away Pokemon in your opponent's hand. No Luxray in the deck, but just still Grabber can be good by itself in the Mew deck. But definitely a pretty cool 60 here, too. And, yeah, definitely Mew is looking still good right now. I don't think Mew's going to be teched. I mean, yeah, it did get 3 top 8s in these 2 tournaments, but I don't know if people are still going to tech for Mew. I think right now everyone's got their eyes on Snorlax, less on Mew, which could be a good thing for Mew enjoyers. But yeah, there you go. Those are the top 8 decks from Brisbane and Gdansk. The big breakthrough decks were towards Crazy Lost Zone deck, and then also the Palkia Ice Rider deck doing pretty good. But we did see Snorlax also have a pretty good weekend, which is definitely a sign that Snorlax is a deck that you probably need to start respecting now. I don't think you can, just sit there and not respect Snorlax. Or maybe you just don't bother respecting Snorlax. Okay, whoop-de-doo, the deck had good results. Let's not respect it. I might do a video on the channel where I talk about why Snorlax doesn't need to be banned and just kind of the nature of having control decks in our format. Just having a discussion about control decks in general, because a lot of people who are newer to the game haven't really seen a control deck this good, probably since, there's Mewtwo control, but, a control deck, having this much dominance, maybe since, the Oranguru days, to be honest, and Chino Mills. So I definitely wanted to kind of talk about the Snorlax control and why Snorlax control is not bad for the game when you look back at previous toxic control decks we have. But that's for another video. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll leave a link to Limos down below if you want to go look at these results yourself and maybe build some of these deck lists and practice with them yourself. And yeah, that'll be for me. If you hope you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you're new, once again, subscribe down below if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all on the video. Bye-bye.